So I'm here with Patrick Cappiello, wine director of Gilt restaurant in the Palace Hotel. Hi, Patrick.
Levi, how are you?
Great to see you. Thanks for taking the time.
Great to see you as well. Thanks so much.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about where we are right now?
So, Gilt restaurant is located in the New York Palace Hotel and in the historic Villard Mansion, which was a mansion that was built in 1883.
Wow.
Yeah, a private residence for Henry Villard.
Very similar to my own apartment.
It's similar, right? I always feel the same way. This is the drawing room, which really doesn't even come close to my drawing room, but it's but it's nice. Henry Villard built it as a private residence for his family in the late 1800s, and it changed hands a few times. In the 1960s, the Archdiocese purchased the property, and then in the 80s leased it out to the Helmsley family.
Oh, sure.
Where they started the hotel, the Helmsley Palace, and since then we've been the New York Palace Hotel. And Gilt Restaurant has been here since 2006, with many different restaurants and bars over the course of the last 30 years in the space.
Including some of the most famous in New York, if I'm correct.
For sure, yeah. The Cirque was here for a few years, which is I think a pretty big one, and some others as well. Yeah.
And the reason we want to stop in today is because what we're seeing is one of the resurgence of the great wine cellars in this country under Patrick's leadership. And I think what the last year witnessed explosive growth of the program here for wine, and amazing place to come and have a glass of wine at this time in an incredible venue. Patrick, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the changes that you've made to the wine cellar and program while you've been here?
Okay. Well, about 2.5 years ago I started, and there was a good selection in the cellar, but for me not where I wanted to see it, especially based on the fact that we had the wealth of the ownership that were really behind the idea of creating a great wine program. So I took advantage of that and expanded the cellar. Over the last 2.5 years, I've gone to 3,000 selections.
Wow, 3,000 selections. So that's not individual bottles, but that's actually selections on the list, line items in the list, and each one of those is represented by a case or at least a bottle that could be 60 bottles, could be 120 bottles. So
it's true, yeah. I mean, our stock in the cellar at this point is almost 50,000 bottles in inventory.
50,000 bottles.
So it's a pretty deep cellar, and it's wines that we source from many locations, whether it's directly from the wineries. We try to do that as much as we possibly can. We work with a couple of very important private collectors that are located here in the East Coast, and they're open their cellars to us, which is exciting. And of course, we use all the other purchase outlets like auction or in the wholesale market, whatever we can do. Basically, I reach out to as many people I can in as many locations to try and consistently be fueling the energy of the list.
So if it's available, you're finding it. You're
so.
out there. You're lassoing that steer.
I hope so, yeah.
And what have been some of the big focuses for you in terms of developing the list? Are there regions that are more important than others, or what have you tried to put together for the guests?
I mean, I really wanted to try and create a wine list that was accessible to everybody, which is such a bold statement, and I feel like a lot of people try to do that, and I think some people succeed and some people don't. I like to think I succeeded at that, but representing classic regions that are representative of the most regal wines in the world, as well as kind of lesser known regions, maybe more under the radar kind of regions, and then maybe every region in between, and hopefully encapsulating every price point along the way, so that the wine list is accessible for people no matter what they can afford to spend. I mean, ideally, I think that there's great wine out there at every price, and I think a great wine list represents that statement.
That sounds like a huge task that you set for yourself, really encapsulating the world of wine and putting it forward for people. When you talk about classic regions, you mean Burgundy, Bordeaux, Champagne, or maybe Barolo? What's coming to mind in those terms?
Yeah, I mean, I think for France would be a strong suit for us here on the list. I think that my list has deep selections in Bordeaux, not only the breadth of the region, but very much the depth of vintages that are out there. And
so when we talk about depth,
yeah,
what are some of the oldest Bordeaux in the cellar at this time?
I mean, I have vintages back to 1900 in Bordeaux, 1900 Chateau Margaux.
Which is great wine.
Yeah,
I enjoy it regularly.
It's a house wine for me as well. 47 Petrus, 47 Cheval Blanc, 61 Petrus, and
so not just spanning a few years, but decades and even a century.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think I try to represent the great vintages of the last 100 plus years, as well as touching on some maybe vintages that were less appreciated and maybe as a result a bit more drinkable, even if they're a little bit younger. I try to take advantage of that because with vintages that are regarded as some of the best come always some of the biggest price tags, and as a result, I think there's good value to be found even in a region like Bordeaux that people think is overinflated, but there's the opportunity to take advantage of softer vintages that are more drinkable. So I try to represent those as well, even with some age.
So not only price more affordably, but also maturing a little quicker and sell better, perhaps for a meal tonight, rather than something that people may have heard of as being great, but by which they mean something that'll be great 10 years from now.
Exactly, and often missed. So yeah.
And some of the regions that you mentioned that are a little more out of the way that you found yourself finding for people and bringing back so that they can discover them. What are some of the regions that have stood out for you recently in different parts of the world as offering really superb wines that people should hear more about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Beaujolais has had a bit of a resurgence lately, although I think not yet on the main stage, but I think that's an area for me that represents great value. I mean, I think there's an opportunity to take advantage of wines that have intensity, power, ageability, wines that are very food friendly, but have, unfortunately in this country, kind of developed a misconceived kind of notion as far as what the wines are, and as a result, I think sommeliers have this venue to present great wines that people don't really know about. So for me, that's an area that definitely represents value.
Also, when you say Beaujolais,
yeah,
you probably mean more like Cru Beaujolais,
Cru Beaujolais,
as opposed to some of the Nouveau items or even Beaujolais Village that I might see in my local supermarket. You mean more like Morgon or Fleury, I would imagine.
For sure, exactly what I mean. Yeah. It seems like, using the term Cru Beaujolais, I think is one that I'm more comfortable with, but I don't know if people that aren't familiar with the region, I think the whole name itself throws them, whether you say Cru Beaujolais or Beaujolais Nouveau. But yeah, I think Cru Beaujolais is definitely something that's a bit more legal.
Myself, when I go to a table, I like to sneak attack people by saying Morgon and never mentioning the word Beaujolais. It's like a submarine that comes up and you don't even know what happened until the bottle's open. Now, I think you brought an example of one of the top producers.
I did.
Did you have one handy?
I did, yes. Yeah. So a wine from Foillard and from the village of Morgon. Côte de Pie, for me, one of his best wines, and 2009 vintage, a vintage that was pretty well received by the critics.
Seen a lot of acclaim.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. So exciting for us, I think, as sommeliers to see that, because it gives us a platform to really push the wine even harder. When the press starts talking about it, I think it makes it easier. So, but yeah, it's different than the Beaujolais Nouveau that you get at the corner liquor store.
So no flowers on this particular label, I noticed.
It's true. Yeah, there's not one flower anywhere on it. Yeah.
But this is one of the top producers, Jean Foillard. And have you found that, I know the 09 vintage disappeared at the wholesale level fairly quickly. Have you found that there has also been an interest at customers at the table? Have you also been able to sell the wines fairly at a quick pace for the acclaim that they've received?
Yeah, I think of the people that know, I think that a lot of the clientele we get here at the restaurant tend to be not on the Beaujolais.
They're not looking necessarily for the value option.
Right, it's true, and I think the one thing that's great about having the bar here at the restaurant is that it makes it.
So that I can come too, and also afford a bottle of wine.
It's true. Yeah. So I think that as you talk to people more and maybe that they realize that they have heard things about 2009 and the vintage of Beaujolais, I think it does make it an easier platform, especially when, like you said, the wines are virtually at this point impossible to get. So.
And I think really over-delivering in the glass, where especially when you're talking about this kind of producer, or maybe Lapierre or Vigne, producers that really show what they're about when you pour them.
It's true.
Yeah. Are there other wines that you have here that maybe represented for you some of the more classic options, or
definitely
things you're excited about right now?
For sure. One of the areas that we excel at here is
and a stunner. He brings to the table a stunner.
So. Chablis is a passion of mine, no doubt, and all the wines of Burgundy across the board. I love red and white Burgundy, but Chablis has always had kind of a special place in my heart. And during the course of my career, I've had the opportunity to taste a lot of great Chablis. And when I took over the program here, I definitely made it a goal to have one of the biggest selections of Chablis in New York City. So, and I think
That's great. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
and those are really food-friendly wines.
Definitely are.
You
Definitely
can go
are.
in a lot of different seasons too.
It's
you,
true.
You can emphasize that clean acidity, or you can have that more mature, like you have here, which may be more of a fall winter.
It's true.
What is it that we have here?
So this is a wine from Dovisat, for me, one of the top 3 producers of wine in Chablis, sure. And this comes from his Grand Cru vineyard of Les Prus, which, in my opinion, his best vineyard in his portfolio. People might.
Wow, that's quite a statement.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, I mean, I think people would argue Clos, but I mean, that's a pretty, I'm sure, a very boring conversation for everyone to listen to.
And for next week.
But I've had great experiences with this wine from his portfolio. So for me, it's an exciting one, and I have a vertical that's pretty deep, vintage-wise.
This is amazing. This is over 20 years old and from one of the great vintages in Europe. I know Europe for a lot of different wines, but certainly for Burgundy.
Yeah.
It used to be in 1990 from the.
It's true, 1990. Yeah, 1990. Les Prus from Dovisat. Yeah.
And I guess we should say this is Renee and Vincent Dovisat, or as it's now known, Vincent Dovisat. And there are a couple of Dovisats kicking around there.
It's true. That make great wine, but not necessarily as great. That's
I got to tell you, I'm thinking about ending the interview and just drinking that right now.
I got a wine key in my pocket. Let's do it.
Well, let's put that one back in the cellar for a second,
All
just
right.
so I don't get too greedy, and let's see what else maybe you brought out for us.
Yeah. So one definite area that I'm pretty passionate about, and I try to have that reflected on the wine list is grower champagnes, and
We have one of the finest here.
Yeah.
Certainly one of the most talked.
for sure. I mean, I'm proud to have a good selection of the wines from Jacques Sillis in the cellar, and I think his wines are representative of what grower champagne always strives to be. I think all the growers in Champagne, maybe not necessarily his style, but as far as the quality level that he's been able to achieve, and to definitely in some ways surpass some of the big houses in what they've been doing for so many years. Grower champagne is something that is relatively new to this country, I think, because the big houses kind of dominated the market, and as a result, these small growers really didn't have a platform to sell their wines. And if it wasn't for brave importers like Terry Thies and some of the other guys that have gone out and kind of found these small growers to distribute the wines here in the U.S. and promote them, and then in turn sommeliers onto them, which hopefully windfalls down to the guests and their experience. But grower champagne, I think, a couple things are great about it. Bang for a buck, no doubt. I mean, I think that there's a lot of opportunity to take advantage of wines that are priced, even lower than entry-level champagnes from big houses that have, for me, more intensity, more power, and higher quality. But also, I think they make great wines on the luxury level that can compete with some of the best and have the ability to age even better or as good as some of the big houses.
This might be a good example of one of the more renowned grower competing at a luxury level. And if I'm not mistaken, Sloss has influenced a lot of other growers like Prevost and Cedric Bouchard
For sure.
to do their own thing. So one of the most inspirational figures in Champagne right now. What's drawing you to this wine at the moment? What's exciting to you?
Well, I mean, I feel like there's something so special about his wines. I mean, it's like a magical champagne experience. It's a wine that in many ways drinks like a still wine or like a wine from the Burgundy region in France.
Great white Burgundy.
Yeah.
Like Chablis.
Without a doubt. But
Dalton.
rosés for me too. I mean, I think it's kind of an interesting occurrence that's happening with rosés. I think people are realizing that they're not just summertime wines. They can be wines that are very food friendly and so.
Throw out the calendar and just drink the wine. Now, you were saying interesting grape mix in this one. What was that?
I believe the blend is 93% Chardonnay and 7% Pinot Noir, most vintages for him. So heavy chard, yeah.
Heavy chard.
Yeah.
Can really act as a terroir vehicle on a place like he is. I think you can really show that kind of stony drive. Maybe some of the things that you like about the Chablis also evidence in this one.
Yeah, I'd agree.